All right, hey everybody, and welcome back to the Codex Comic Podcast. Today we're here for episode 7, and it was a pretty big week at both Marvel and DC. So I'm Michael.
This is Nick.
And let's just jump right in. So Amazing Spider-Man 789 came out this week. Big deal. We're going back to legacy numbering and kind of a classic Peter Parker status quo. The Parker luck striking him again. He's losing Parker Industries. And Norman Osborn, of course, is pulling some strings for some magic to get his Green Goblin-ness back, as we saw in Legacy. So big stuff happening in Spider-Man going forward. I'm excited. I hope that we can fix some of the problems Spider-Man's had recently. I've just always been more of a fan of the classic Peter Parker, where his life is terrible, which, I mean, sounds terrible, but I just like those kind of stories, and him having Parker Industries did not do justice to the character at all, because he didn't earn that company. He didn't earn his doctorate. It was all Doc Ock doing that, so it didn't feel earned for the character, just because Spider-Man is a genius. Peter Parker is a genius, and making it so he didn't earn any of that stuff himself, I think, really takes away from the character. Nick?
Definitely you're right about that. Honestly, I think, in reality, since Parker is a genius, he could have eventually built this at one point, but I don't think it would have been right this minute, because I feel like Parker would have become a little bit older before he tried to attempt company. But basically, in my opinion, they made Peter Parker look more like Tony Stark in a sense, which isn't Peter Parker in my opinion. What do you think about this, Mike?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they made him to be more like Tony Stark, considering the fact that Tony Stark is, dead currently, in a coma, but he woke up, and, he's dating Mary Jane, and it's really weird. But, yeah, I think it's an interesting story to see Peter as a Tony Stark character, but I think it is time that we get back to telling some classic Spider-Man stories. So on that note, let's take it over to DC and have Nick talk to us about Wonder Woman, number 32.
All right, Wonder Woman number 32. Basically, in this issue, we finally get to meet Wonder Woman's brother Jason on the last page, unfortunately. Before that, though, you get to see Wonder Woman fighting some parademons, which leads me to believe that Darkseid is going to try and take Wonder Woman's power here. She easily defeats the parademons, and with the help of Hercules' lawyer of sorts, she enters into basically his treasure room, in a sense, and finds her brother's location on one of the lion heads he has in there. Basically, what do you think we can see from this Jason character, Mike?
Yeah, I'm totally all for a new character, and I hope that he really sticks around. I hope that he's not in here for an issue and then he sacrifices himself and dies. I think introducing a character this way opens up for a brand new character, a new supporting character for Wonder Woman to, tell, the next story arc could be a team up with Wonder Woman and Jason. And I think there's some really good stories there. Give Jason a superhero title, and do not call him Wonder Man or something dumb, but give him a superhero name and let him join the Justice League. Let him have a part to play in everything that's going on. Once Doomsday Clock happens and stuff gets reset, don't delete this character. Keep this character around, and this is how you introduce new characters organically. You insert them last page of an issue so that buyers go and buy it, and it's worth some money someday, even though it won't be. But I think that's just how you introduce a new character organically and let the story flow, and I think there are really good story opportunities with this character. Are you excited for this character? Do you think that we are going to see this character going forward?
Well, in my honest opinion, I think this character will go forward, but there is a slight chance. Sometimes I'm a pessimistic, unfortunately, but I have a feeling this character might pull a heroic sacrifice in a sense, but we'll have to see what happens, honestly. But hopefully, this character does stick around because DC could really use some new characters. Um,
Yeah, I'm really not looking forward to him pulling some heroic sacrifice because I agree. I think that's what they're going to do. But I think it adds a lot to the character of Wonder Woman and even this character himself. I mean, he has to hate the Amazons. Like, I mean, and I can't wait to get into his background story. Like, what has he been doing for all these years? And I'm just really excited for that. And I hope this character sticks around. So let's talk about the Avengers that came out this week.
all right, so Uncanny Avengers number 28. Basically, in this comic, you can see the Avengers kind of repairing relationships and bringing themselves back from Secret Empire. Basically, the team's trying to reform themselves after the events of Secret Empire. Basically, for most of this comic, you can see Beast and Wonder Man, which is a classic team up from the 80s. They basically meet in a bar and discuss what has happened over the course of their years. And we can also see an old classic villain like Whirlwind come back, which I haven't seen in God knows how long. Um, but basically, they head to the Avengers Mansion. They start rebuilding. But on the last page, we get a teaser of Juggernaut himself coming into the mix. What do you think about this?
Juggernaut, that's actually interesting. But I do like the idea of, I mean, this is legacy and these characters sitting down, like talking about their past and telling a story about fixing these ties after a big event like that. I think plot wise, I think that's awesome, and that's how you come out of an event because the events need to be universe shaking. Um, so seeing the ramifications of that after the event, I think is really, really important. So I'm going to jump to Dark Knight's Metal number 3. Awesome issue. Again, I'm biased because it was really a Superman story, which was awesome. But I think it's really fun to see a a Batman book. It's called Dark Knight's Metal. It's a Batman event, but seeing Superman at the core of that story was awesome to me, and something I really didn't expect to see from this arc. But I mean, we really got to see the evil Batman in this issue, and like they burn a bar down and they just sit there and have drinks, and it's awesome. It's really fun to see like just a team of like evil Bruce Waynes. Um, and there was this awesome scene where Superman is like, "All right, I'm gonna go into the dark multiverse to save Bruce," and Damian gives him a hug and he's like, "Thanks, Clark." And Superman's like, "We'll save your dad or whatever, kiddo." And it was awesome. Like it was really cool to see like that continuity there because like Damian and John are friends, so like Damian really knows Clark, and just seeing that and Damian likes to pretend like he's like Batman and he hates everything and stuff, but at Damian's core he's still a kid and he still has a heart, and just seeing that scene was awesome. Nick, I just want to talk about your thoughts on this issue.
Okay, so basically, the team now has a plan to stop these Dark Knights metal, as we can see in the issue with the nth metal. Basically, the group of heroes splits into 3 teams, and basically they head into different parts of the DC universe to collect this nth metal, which apparently hurts them. So, but Superman, definitely Superman was really cool in this issue. Basically we can see his mentality. He wants to save Bruce Wayne. Um, he actually goes into the dark multiverse, and that's the one source of nth metal. But in reality, he has no idea what to expect. Do you think we'll see Nightmare Supermans running around since Superman traveled into the dark multiverse?
I really hope so. I've been saying this since like all the evil like since we found out what the evil Batman were. And I think this issue is kind of setting up for that. The Batman who laughs, he tells everybody, he's like, if anybody on this planet has a hope or a fear or whatever, it shows a world in the dark multiverse. And I really think that is setting up for us seeing an evil Superman, an evil Wonder Woman, evil Green Lanterns, well, we already have the evil Flash, technically, but whatever. And I really think that is setting up for that. And I hope we do. I think this is a Batman event, but I think even more so it's a Justice League, it's a DC event. So I think just keeping it as only Batman really hurts what these other characters are. And I think seeing other evil versions of different characters makes it more of this is a dark multiverse with a bunch of evil things. But if it sticks where it is right now, it's just an evil world filled with Batman instead of these other characters. I think we should see. I think we should, and I think we're going to see at least evil Superman, evil Wonder Woman, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. So next on our list is going to be Deadpool. So I'm going to send that over to Nick.
All right, so Deadpool 287. Basically, Deadpool becomes sort of evil again and hunts after Cable. Basically, this whole issue is them fighting, and then the Time Police show up, and they're like, "Well, Cable, you crossed the line." And they kind of haul him away, which I'm like, okay. But anyway, this issue was kind of funny because these two friends basically are now fighting over God knows what, but um, basically Deadpool's after Strife, and basically Cable is a clone of Strife. Basically, we can see Deadpool basically going back to his roots and becoming the more despicable. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't really follow Deadpool much, but I think Deadpool in his own self-titled book, I think that works really well, and I like Deadpool in that aspect. And just an issue fighting Cable, that sounds awesome to me. Like a full issue of that. And I'm excited to see where the whole Deadpool thing goes, especially with everything that happened with Secret Empire with him and what happened in Legacy. Legacy was actually really good. I really enjoyed it, and it made me really excited to see where everything Marvel's going to go. And so a lot of the books that came out this week were helping to start explaining that kind of stuff, the post-Legacy stuff. So I'm excited to see all that. And so some more DC stuff. We had Action Comics and we had Detective Comics out this week. Both kind of a crossing over story, but they're not crossing over. Action, we got part 3 of the Oz Effect. Interesting story so far. I like seeing Jor-El. We finally got to see Jor-El confront his daughter-in-law and his grandson, which was really, really cool. And especially because it's interesting to see him talk to John, because he convinces John that John could have this perfect life where he can just be Superboy. He doesn't have to hide who he is, hide what he does, and he'll have more friends than just the Batboy, as Jor-El says it. And I think to a 10-year-old kid who had these superpowers, who was half alien, I think this would speak a lot to him. And I think looking at that aspect of this character is awesome, and excited to see the next issue where we're going to see John kind of accepting the idea that he could have this utopian world. And so then we have Detective, which was fun. We get to see mentions to a character that we haven't seen in a very, very long time, Connor Kent, Superboy. He doesn't appear in the issue, but basically we find out that the Batman that showed up talking to Tim Drake, we learned that in last issue that he was the Tim Drake of tomorrow. But in this issue, we kind of learn that he's from a different timeline because he starts questioning about where Connor is, where Con is. So excited to see where all that goes. Nick, you want to talk about those two issues?
Definitely. I'll start with Action Comics first. This issue kind of covered a bunch of stuff. The thing I find interesting is John is willing to accept this idea of a utopia, but honestly, I don't. Do you think he'll fall for this idea, or do you think he'll stay to his father, honestly?
I think in the end, Superman's gonna be like, "Hey, John, we can't do this. Like we are supposed to better humanity, and to do that, we have to make our sacrifices." But I really think that here at first, I think John's gonna be all for this idea. I think he's gonna want to go with his grandfather. I mean, he doesn't have either of his grandparents because in this timeline, his namesake John Kent was killed. He was. It's weird. Depends on which timeline and everything we're going with. But like, John really doesn't have any of his grandparents. He has his uncle Perry. So I really think and I think John's gonna want to know more about Krypton and Kryptonian heritage. And I don't really know if Superman's shown him and shared that knowledge with him yet. And I think Jor-El is going to offer that to him and offer him this perfect life. And I think at first John's going to be all for it, and then until the end when Superman's like, "Hey, buddy, like we can't do that. We have to be better for human sake." So I think that's what's going to happen.
Also, another question. What about Supergirl? Does John know about Supergirl?
That's really interesting and something I haven't really put thought into. Um, I mean, yeah, he knows Supergirl. I mean, he knows who she is. He knows that Supergirl is a person and she exists because in Action Comics, all the current Supermen teamed up to help fight General Zod, and John and Lois were in the Fortress of Solitude. And I'm sure on TV and everything, John has seen Supergirl. But that actually is a really, really interesting question to me. The interaction that he would have with his cousin, who and I've always thought Supergirl's story was awesome. Like it was always cool that she was like older than Clark. Like she was supposed to be Clark Kent's protector or Kal-El's protector. But then she gets trapped in Kandor or whatever her story is now. I don't even know. I don't know if it's Kandor or not anymore. But then once she comes out, Kal-El is now the more experienced one, and he's her protector. And I've always thought that story was awesome. So now that you mention it, I really want to see Supergirl and John interact. That's actually awesome to me.
Also, another cool interaction would be Kara Zor-El talking to Jor-El. That's also something we haven't seen yet. Basically, I guess Jor-El doesn't know Zod's still around. What do you think his reaction will be, if there is any, to Zod coming back?
Yeah, well, yeah, Jor-El's not going to be real happy that General Zod's back, and I think that's not my problem with this story, but I think that's the problem with stories in general. Like, there's all these really cool aspects of a story that you would love to see, and I just telling you couldn't have like 20 issues to hit everything that you wanted because it would get burned out. But I think it'd be awesome for Jor-El to learn about Zod. I mean, he has to know. No, actually, Jor-El has to know that Zod's around because when John was being attacked in the Fortress of Solitude, when Zod was attacking, John was in the suit, and then Jor-El was like, "Just do this and you'll be fine." So Jor-El does know that Zod's around because he's been watching stuff. He knows about the Eradicator and everything too. But knowing and like talking about it and confronting this character, two different things, and I would love to see that. And I would love to see Jor-El talk to Supergirl, Superwoman, Steel, Lex Luthor, Superman, which we did see, but I would love to see more of that.
All right. Well, to wrap this story up, basically, oh man, the possibilities are endless with this story. But on to Detective Comics. My only thing with this was Batman's using a gun.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, this character appeared in a story back in the old New Titans comic. The Titans of Tomorrow was a story arc where all the Titans had counterparts with themselves from the future. And back then, it was established that this Tim Drake is using the gun Joe Kill used to gun down Batman's parents, which I think is actually a really cool aspect. Like the new Batman takes this gun that started it all and uses it as and repurposes it for good. I think that's a really interesting story, and I'm kind of excited for the Detective Comics Batman team to meet this Tim Drake. I'm really excited for Batman to fight Batman Tim Drake. That'll be awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, this Tim Drake has been through a lot of events. I don't know what's going to happen to this character, honestly. But also another thing I noticed, like this Tim Drake, like he knows stuff from the old timeline. Do you think that will be part of this upcoming event?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, basically with the reveal that Doctor Manhattan is the one that pulled Jor-El out of the timelines, then Jor-El captured this Tim Drake, and even the Tim Drake from tomorrow is seen zapped in like blue light, so presumably he was pulled out of the timeline by Doctor Manhattan. I'm just so excited to see what Doctor Manhattan's what his whole plan is, but I want to know more like the pawn that he's using Jor-El for, why he's captured these people, why he's done these different things. Um, it's this really really cool overarching story, but each story is its own contained story that fits into something bigger, and I think it's awesome.
Oh man, definitely. Um, also, I'm kind of curious who else he's captured and used as a pawn. Well, don't really know anyone off the top of my head, but I'm kind of curious who else is fit into his plan. Like the possibilities are endless if you think about it. But enough on that. Basically,
All right, other titles that came out this week, we've got Dr. Aphra 13. We got Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps is number 30, which kind of ties into the last Superman arc with him being a Yellow Lantern and everything. Not the last Superman arc, the Superman arc before that. But we see Yellow Lantern Superman on the cover, which looks really, really cool. The button hardcover came out, which is awesome, awesome lenticular covers from the actual single issue covers. Great looking hardcover. And Just League of America 16 came out, answering questions that happen in Rebirth. Um, really, really important to this whole scheme of Rebirth. So that was a really cool read.
also we got Falcon number 1, which basically the thing about Falcon number 1 is it did not go back to legacy numbering because Falcon has not had his own title. Basically because he's always been paired with Captain America or the Avengers. We have Flash number 32. We have Grim Fairy Tales number 9. We have a new title, Ragman number 1. And we have X-Men Blue number 13, which is part 2 of the Mojoverse crossover with X-Men Gold.
All right, so now we're going to jump into the role-playing games, that kind of stuff. I'm going to give it to Nick for, well, not even role-playing games, for HeroClix this week, so I'm going to give that to him.
All right, so this week we got the Thor Ragnarok movie set, which basically it has all the characters from the movie. Like you'll see Thor, Hulk, the new Valkyrie. You'll see probably some minions in there. I assume there's going to be a Grandmaster in there, Loki, Hela, Executioner, Enchantress maybe. But basically it's just a movie set. Just a countertop. I'll switch it back to Mike as we talk about the picks of the week.
All right, so every week we do picks. We do a pick of a comic for this week, and we do a pick for a story. It just so happens both of mine actually came out this week, and I'm pretty sure so did Nick's. So my comic pick for the week is Dark Knight's Metal number 3. Again, it's at a core Superman story, so I'm super biased, but I just think it was a really great story, and it's really starting to amp up. We're done with exposition for this story at this point. We're going to start getting into the fun, crazy stuff, the fighting, the just everything that we wanted from this story, which we've already gotten everything that we wanted from the story. But now I think the exposition is done and we can get into the meat of the story. So my trade pick for the week actually is a trade that was released this week. It's called Super Sons. It's Volume 1. It's the first 5 issues of Super Sons, which is like my favorite ongoing series right now. They meet up with Lex Luthor because Damian tried to break in. And it's just Superboy getting into a lot of trouble because Damian tries too hard to be Batman. And it's awesome. And I think it's really what Rebirth is all about. It's fun. It's written really well. The art's awesome. It's a great read. You need to check it out. Nick, your picks?
All right. Also, I had to pick Dark Knight's Metal #3 because it was just a really good story. Now we're getting finally into the meat of the story and what actually is going to happen. Also, my trade pick of the week has to be the hardcover of The Button. Basically, this story, it felt like icing on the cake for Flashpoint that it needed. The one part of the story I absolutely enjoyed was when Bruce Wayne met Thomas Wayne in the Flashpoint timeline that was basically on life support. And it's really cool to see them both fighting the Amazons and the Atlantis soldiers while Flash is rebuilding the cosmic treadmill. It was really, really cool. And seeing two Batmen fighting at the same time was just really cool. And this issue leads me to believe that Thomas Wayne is not dead, because the whole Flashpoint timeline is coming apart, and you can see the white as in Zero Hour from the 90s. But of course, Thomas Wayne, he charges right at the Void. So it leads me to believe that he might be still out there somewhere. Heck, he could have ended up like Jor-El or the Titans of Tomorrow, Tim Drake. He could have got zapped, but we don't know because of course the page phases out. But this story, it was just needed, and now this story sets the stage of Doomsday Clock and basically what's to come.
All right, so to wrap everything up, we're going to go into our special events. First things first, we got on Saturday, October 21st, Mount Aloysius College is having a charity convention. That'll be at the Mount from 10 to 5. On Saturday, October 28th, that's Halloween Comic Fest. Free Halloween comics for all ages. Really fun event. It's basically free comic book day, but in the fall. On Saturday, October 29th, the Codex shop will be open from 12 to 4. This is during Ebensburg's Trick or Treat. The parade starts at 1 o'clock, and we're going to be having a costume contest all weekend. 2 age groups, 12 and under, and then a 13 and up. So that'll be a lot of fun. Make sure you come in with a costume, and that contest will be a lot of fun. We'll see you next week.